All right, I'm gonna go through some tips and tricks, some general concepts for this excerpt, and some more specific ways to practice. And number one advice is go listen to the piece. And I've linked some YouTube videos down below with the timestamp of when the excerpt starts. So make sure that you're listening to a lot of recordings so that you know the overall atmosphere of the piece and tempo and style, all those things. Second would be to practice with a metronome so that you are sure that you're in the range 116 to 124 that's marked from TMEA. So this first phrase, make sure that you start by blocking the E flat octave so that you don't have to put the fourth finger down at the last minute. And make sure you're starting either from a moving bow already, so count and breathe before you start, so you're getting that impulse into the next measure. So 1, 2, 3. See if you can vibrate every single note in this phrase. Also have a very purposeful bow stroke and really, really legato, sink and pull into the string. If you can be pretty close to the bridge as well, we want a rich tone, nothing over the fingerboard like this. The next line, make sure you're starting all of these triplet up bows from the string. So never, right, that's a little bit too wild and unpredictable. Block the first finger and set your bow. And for intonation, I would practice it even slower and more legato. Play some notes with open strings just to make sure that you have the right intervals. So for this shift, this is a concept that we can apply to everything. You'll usually have an intermediary note in a shift. I end up shifting to D flat, even though the D flat's not in the key signature, but that makes sense in my hand frame. So when you practice that shift, or it could be whatever you want. It could be D flat, D natural, whatever. Make sure that that shift is really in tune. Also, when I'm shifting to third position, I always run in to the shoulder of the violin with the bottom of my left hand. So that creates another point of contact to have like a physical way of knowing that I'm in third position. Also, when you're practicing intonation, don't use vibrato because you want to hear the purest form of the pitch that you're playing. And vibrato hides that, obviously. On these quarter notes, make sure that you're doing those lines that are marked or tenuto marks. So that means that there's a little bit of stress or marking of each note. See a little bit of coming out of the string on the end of each note. Keep your second finger there after the B flat and set the low 3 and 4 after that. So you have a half step 3 and then whole step 4. And your intermediary note is the first finger shifting from D flat to E flat. So it's a whole step shift with your first finger. These should be nice big bows and still a little bit of separation between those quarter notes. Okay, so then you're in fourth. You'll have to shift down to second position here. So make sure that you put your first finger down in second position. This is your bass note. And then you'll be able to find 4 from there. Here Comes the Bride for 1 to 4. And make sure that you're always setting the bow before you play those triplets. And then the next one is B flat on fourth finger and mark the first finger as your landmark. and you also have that intermediary note there, and shift up with a slide, and then you'll be able to hide that slide with the bow stroke. But I'm still doing that same motion as I practice it slowly and legato, but you're just hiding it with the separation of the bow stroke. Then, this looks really scary, but it's not that bad. So make sure that from the E flat, you shift up to the A on the A string, and then it's just an octave on the E string above that. So it'll look like, that's how you find it. So make sure you're sliding from the E flat. You can sort of do a little tester with your bow so that you sort of silently find that note. Like that. See, I can hear it. I don't know if you can, but... And then you'll know that this is in tune. So set your bow on the string and make sure that you're thinking horizontal in your bow stroke. So not vertical, but this way, because it's already crazy enough. There's a ton of string crossings and you're really, really high on the string as well. So think as horizontal as you can. Okay, you can also practice this super legato and slow for intonation. So the 1-2-1, I crossed out the 3-4 that's written in the part, but I do 1-2-1 here, so it's just a half step down. Then shift down to the A and lock in with third position with your wrist. Lock in again with your wrist here. Another really, really good way is to practice it all slurred. It doesn't matter how many notes you put per bow. The concept is just that you're thinking of it very, very legato. So it makes you really focus on the left hand instead of right hand stuff. Okay, so the last note, make sure you have a little wiggle on it and not too long, it's just an eighth note. This quarter rest in a lot of recordings is stretched quite a bit. It doesn't say it in the part, so just know that the cellos have a big shift from like here all the way up the fingerboard, so they might need a little bit of time to shift all the way up. So from here, so this rhythm is really, really tricky. So let's just go over the rhythm once and clap. So it's da 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 dum, ba da da dum. Da 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 dum bum bum. And you can subdivide the eighth notes within the quarter note that's tied to the eighth note afterwards. So I would think of it as ba da da dum bum bum ba da da dum. So clap that a few times by yourself to make sure that you really understand the rhythm and how that goes. And then add in the violin. And I start in third position with a high 1 and shift down on the open E. There's a number of ways you could do this. You could do the first 4 notes all on the A string and then shift. You could also start in first position with a 3 or with a 3-4. So from the 4 notes before that. Then we have an accent on that F double sharp, which is the same thing as a G natural. Make sure that you know your half steps and whole steps here. So we have G natural or F double sharp. Okay, make sure you're vibrating as much as you can to have a very, very rich tone and have an appropriate appassionato style. You're very, very legato and sinking into the string the whole length of the bow. So that shift up to the A sharp, I'm also locking in to third position here and sliding. You can hear it a little bit, but then in context, it'll sort of go away. Okay, so then from the D sharp, I do the same fingering. And you can also slide into that G natural, F double sharp, sorry. So practice this shift. So that you really know the relationship between the F sharp and G natural. This is into fourth position, so you'll come up in your hand, the palm of your hand will sort of be touching the shoulder. Okay, and vibrate if you can on the fourth finger. And then I shift up to third finger here so that I'm a little bit closer for the really big shift up to the A. So, and it's stronger fingers. So the intermediary note here is from D sharp to F sharp. That's how you need to practice that shift, and then you can get rid of that note eventually. So it'll sound like, and I actually ended up doing a new finger shift, so I slide with the fourth finger just at the very, very last couple millimeters into that top note to give it a little bit more expression and really accent it with your bow as well. Because it is the highest note of the excerpt and probably the most exciting part. So make sure that you really, really go for that top note with a lot of bow as well. And come around with your elbow so that you have a tall hand. Make sure that you're giving yourself room to come around and you're not getting blocked here. So it's really hard to hit that note if you're not coming around the instrument. So the note before the shift, really get tall so you have room to shift up to the A. And then block this G sharp octave. Vibrate as many notes as you can continuously and also come away from the end of the phrase like it is marked, the diminuendo. And then really, really big here. So this is suddenly fortissimo from mezzo forte. And this is the exact same rhythm that we worked on before, which is the da-da-da-dum, bum, ba-ba-bum. Shift up with an accent to the A sharp. And subdivide the eighth notes in that dotted quarter, so bum, bum, bum. And be careful here. Of those notes. The C sharp to D sharp shift. And then a half step between D sharp and E. And you can do that seventh just across the strings with a 4 and 2. So make sure you're coming around with your elbow so that you can really be supported and have tall fingers the whole way. I hope this was helpful for you. If you have any questions, comments, or inquiries, or want to work with me, you can contact me at my website, nataliegaynor.com, or you can leave a comment below if you have any questions that you want to share with your friends. I'll be posting the other 2 excerpts on here as well, so look for those if you want more tips and tricks. Good luck!